Welcome to Voices from the Bench, a dental laboratory podcast. Send us an email at info@voicesfromthebench.com or look for us on Facebook at Voices from the Bench.
Greetings and welcome to Voices from the Bench. My name is Elvis Dahl.
And I am Barbara Wojin, and this is episode 34. I cannot believe still at it. It's pretty awesome. 34, man. I can remember when we were saying we were 20. Now we're 34.
I can barely remember when we were saying we were 33.
Yeah, that's because you've been on vacation for a month. Just saying.
Yep. So what a lot of people don't know is Barb and I actually haven't even spoken much in the last 3 weeks. I know you missed me a lot.
I did. I was very jealous.
That's the magic of podcasts. We pre-recorded a couple episodes because I took a big trip down to Ecuador, the Galapagos Islands, Peru. If you go over to the Voices from the Bench Facebook page, there's a couple pictures of me sporting the shirt in some famous places.
I saw them. That's pretty neat. Woo woo. We can get a plug-in from down south.
Yeah, there you go. And we actually had some downloads. It was funny. You know, I told you that I put our episode to play at the hotel computer in Peru, so it would have played that one episode. But I swear to you, now we have 6 downloads from Peru. So
cool, man.
I don't know if
awesome.
Somebody saw my shirt. I don't know if they just hit play again on the computer or do the...
Or if they were just trying to hit delete.
Yeah. Yeah, in Peru, the stop button is the play button. So there you go.
That was funny.
So last week, we had a roundtable discussion with the presidents of different state associations. And on the second part, we actually talked about who comes into the laboratories to do the yearly inspections. At the time, we figured it was the organization that does the restaurants, which turns out is called the Department of Business and Professional Regulations. Thanks to Bennett Napier from Partners in Association Management, he pointed out that the Florida dental labs are actually inspected by the Department of Health that does other medical facilities. So I apologize for the misinformation. I feel a little bit better now knowing that people in the medical field are inspecting labs. I don't know if it's perfect. It's better.
And we always appreciate getting an email from Bennett letting us know the goods and the bads and the evils. And we appreciate it when we're right and we appreciate it when we're wrong. So thank you, Bennett.
Yeah, I actually told him that he's going to be our editor from now on. I'm just going to send him the episodes before so he can point out.
To keep you in line, man. It's obviously not me. So
I don't know what I'm talking about.
I don't even know where the hell you get that information, but I'm glad that you clarified. So
yeah, thanks again, Bennett. We appreciate it.
Yep.
So this episode brings in 2 gentlemen who have an interesting business that helps labs figure out through their current clients what they excel at and what they can improve on. The company is called LabWorthy, and their data collection can be a powerful tool used in any dental laboratory's marketing or growth. So please join Trevor, Willenberg, and John Schwartz from LabWorthy as they discuss how you can help with client turnover and improving your overall client experience.
Voices from the Bench. The interview.
I'd like to thank Trevor Willenberg from LabWorthy. He contacted us via info@voicesfromthebench.com with an interesting concept, and he brought with him the CEO of LabWorthy, John Schwartz. And these gentlemen actually kind of do a different twist on our industry. I don't even know how to explain it. What exactly do you guys do? And there's the nervous laugh.
There's my nervous laugh. Oh boy, thanks. Now I'm really self-conscious.
No worries.
And there's my first so there we have it. I've been in the dental industry most of my life, actually. My dad was in it. My whole family's been in it, but primarily on the media side. And for about the last 15 years, I've been on the media side in various roles, selling advertising for Dental Products Report, and then moving on to an online startup called Dental Compare, and then finally taking the top job over at DPR and as a vice president running dental and eye care for UBM, the parent company. And anyhow, in this entire experience, one of the things that I noticed in every meeting that I was in, whether it was with an advertiser or internally, is that everybody seemed to think they knew dentists. Everybody wanted to tell me that, well, dentists don't go on the internet, or dentists only read print, or dentists only do that. And I always had a hard time sort of believing all that. I always wondered where that information came from. And it got me to thinking that maybe the quality of information about dentists and their buying habits and kind of how they run their practice might not really be up to snuff, and that potentially we're not connecting all the dots that we need to connect to be more effective in how we operate as businesses in this industry. So one of the other things I did when I was at DPR is I ran our dental lab products group, DLP, Dental Lab Products Magazine, and some other things. And I would spend time with labs, and they too sort of had these issues that were very specific to the lab market that they would face. And obviously, we know that the lab market is going through tremendous change right now. Mm-hmm. Anyhow, what I set out to do when I started this company was to really figure out what are the blind spots in data that could help labs be more successful. And the big one that I found was the idea of loyalty. So how loyal are my customers? And we wanted to find a way to measure that and give that data back to the labs so they could segment their customer base from sort of most loyal, awesome promoter customer all the way down to someone who is probably in the process of churning out of their business or leaving the lab altogether. So we built a platform using Net Promoter Score to measure this loyalty across customers and then feed that back as insights to labs. Broadly speaking, what our company does is we use, vertical specific data and artificial intelligence to solve problems like attrition and new customer growth in healthcare. So lab is really our first market and sort of the one that's near and dearest to my heart. But we're also in the dental manufacturer market. And just recently, in the last month, we've gotten into providing the solution for dentists. So sorry, that's probably a long-winded way of explaining what I am. I hope you can edit that down. But this is what we do at LabWorthy.
Yeah. So you're using a lot of terms that seem specific to your industry. What is NPS? What is that?
Yeah. So NPS is shorthand for Net Promoter Score. And Net Promoter Score was developed in about 2004 by the really smart people at Bain Consulting. And essentially, they were looking for one single metric that would tell you what the loyalty of your customer was. And they needed to make it very, very simple. So it comes down to a very simple question, which is, how likely are you to refer my lab to a friend or a colleague on a scale of 1 to 10? That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Boom, done.
Yeah.
Drop the mic.
Yeah.
So when people fill that out, though, there's this very, very sort of elegant science behind it that is able to tell you, okay, people who do a 10 are your promoters. They're sort of your ideal customers. They're the most likely to bring in new customers for you. So hold these people closely. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you have your detractors who are anywhere from a 1 to a 6. And these are people that are most likely telling other people negative things about your business. Also, within the next 60 to 90 days, they're most likely to churn out of your business. And as we all know, these people don't leave you a goodbye note or typically a reason why they're leaving. They just quietly leave the business and start to work with another lab or several other labs.
Never happens.
So, yeah, it never happens, right? You keep all your customers.
So are there labs surveying their customers with this score, and then this score comes to you, and then you give that information to them?
Oh, so yeah. So actually what we do is we do the end-to-end for them. They sign up with us, and we actually either through an API into their software, into their lab management software, or through an export, we'll reach out to all of their customers on their behalf with that email and or text message. And then the customers will say, 1 through 10. And then we ask them a follow-up question, which is, please give the biggest reason for your score? And and this is where it gets really interesting, because this is where we find out things like, your delivery driver is the guy that's driving most of your positive sentiment in the business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually the case for a couple of our clients. And it's like, whoa, this guy has a really big impact on our business. Or you find out that, you thought you were losing customers because of price, or, Glidewell came in and gave low credit, whatever it was, right? But no, actually, it's because you're not following directions. So what we do is we're able to drive those insights back to the lab so they can start to make substantial business decisions around how they operate, how they market, those types of things. And then we can track that net promoter score for their business over time. So they can actually measure their improvement. And then what we do, and probably more interesting to your listeners, is we have a benchmark across the industry. So we can say that, as of, this morning, the average NPS score for the industry is somewhere around 52. And that's down from a high of like 62 a couple months ago. So we create a benchmark that labs can look at their score and benchmark against the industry.
So when you get those scores back, if it's a 1 to 6, like you were saying, a negative, somebody that's a detractor, I think is how you put it. Do you have any recommendations to the lab on, hey, if you score a 1 to 6, this is
Yep.
what we recommend, or this is what we found, or how do they use the lower score?
Such a good question. And this is where curious labs can really, really improve their business. The first thing that we recommend is to reach out as fast as possible. Time is really, really vital.
Mm-hmm.
So the stats in the consumer world tell us that if you reach out to a detractor within like 24 hours, you have a 90% chance of keeping that customer. And so there's a time thing that's going on where you want to get to those people quickly. The other thing that you want to do immediately is to acknowledge that there's a problem. And this whole thing about the customer is always right and so forth. But keep in mind, these are people who have had a negative conversion experience around your business. They've gone from maybe liking your business to not liking it. There's probably an emotional factor at play here. They were having a tough day. Things weren't getting seated. The patients were backed up. They had a problem with their hygienist. A million things going on before they get to your NPS survey. You want to acknowledge that you probably had a role in their bad day. And that tends to sort of put them on level with you. We're like, okay, thank you for acknowledging that. Now let me tell you what my issue is. And then you want to listen very closely to what their issue is and be very understanding about that issue and go to work as fast as you can resolving that issue if it's resolvable. If not, sometimes just a really sincere and in-person or over the phone apology or conversation can turn the tide in their mind. Typically, people don't follow up with these surveys. That's the problem. People like to send out lots of surveys, and if you're in the marketing department, that's like job security. Hey, I sent out the survey, did my job, it's all good. But it's the labs that we've worked with that go that extra mile to make sure that the customer feels heard, that tend to benefit from this.
Yeah, it all comes down to action on their part, really. I mean, I think what we do is we give them the data to act on, and we can talk with them about it, but it all comes down to how do they react to those sentiments.
Yep.
I would think that if they bring your company in to do a survey like that their clients are pretty important to them, and that using that intelligence probably benefits their customer satisfaction and grows their business.
100%.
Yeah.
That's what we believe. At the same time, what we really try and do, we have two things that we do to help sort of give a resource to the lab in doing that. Because, as we all know, it's not like most labs have these big marketing and customer, happiness departments, right? There's nobody who's like has a title of like customer happiness person. It might be somebody on the bench. It might be, the front office person. So what we do is we have a program called automations. And what our automations do is, let's say that somebody comes in and they have a low NPS score. We know they have a problem. What we'll do is send them an automated email that goes out that's customized. It's kind of automated customization. And it'll say, hey, Elvis, we saw that you had an issue with our lab. We're very sorry about that. Let us buy you a cup of coffee and talk about it. And in that email, there'll be like a redeem code for a Starbucks e-gift card. And all that does really is it just acknowledges in the moment that person has had a difficult time, and then the lab can follow up with that. So we want to, we just want to keep that moving down the road for them. The second thing that we do is we have a customer success team that works with our labs. So they might do a survey, but then our team will actually sit down and go through the data in the survey and talk to them about some of these things they can be doing to see if they're doing it, to get a handle on that.
So it's kind of like a coaching team. Okay, here's your results, and this is what we recommend you do about it, or you make suggestions for them to use those scores appropriately and positively.
Nailed it.
I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Kind of connecting all the dots to what the information is for the labs.
That's what we try and do. And look, just in all honesty, a lot of it comes down to time. With these types of things, the more time you can afford to put into it, the better results you're going to get out of it. And so honestly, there are labs that might not be a fit for this because they just don't have the time to apply to something like this, and others do and have seen the benefits. But that's basically what we do on the detractor side. And then interestingly enough, on the promoter side, you have what we started to realize a little while ago is that these people who raise their hand to say, hey, I really like your business, or anybody who you work with in your lab, and you can look at them and say, these are my best customers. Well, those best customers are probably of a type. So they probably share characteristics. And what we like to work with labs on is, how do you build your ideal customer? Because if you can build your ideal customer from a marketing perspective, then you know where to look for more of your ideal customers. And so what you might find is that your ideal customer is typically a smaller, dental practice with 2 or less dentists and 1 hygienist. And maybe that's your sweet spot. But it's not until you start to look at the data that you can start to understand these things. And we work with our dentists to kind of help build out some of those profiles or give them the data to do that. So then on the promoter side, we have an automation that is like, okay, so I gave you a 10, love you, never leaving you. We'll send them an automated email that says, hey, thank you so much for that. Would you like to refer 5 of your friends to our lab? And then they can put in their friend's email address. We send them out an automated email that invites them to check out the lab with maybe a promo or something like that. So we want to identify those great customers and then build a multiplier effect around that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. How long have you guys been sending out surveys from the lab business? I mean, how many years of data do you have collected?
Wow, you're giving me way too much credit. We actually started formally sending out surveys in 2017. So probably, it was probably really Q4 of 2017 that we got things accelerated. And right now we're over 50,000 surveys, and we've got a lot of data that we've collected from that, and so a lot of different insights.
But Elvis, you bring up an interesting point in that the data that we get is only going to grow over time. And as we continue to send out these surveys, what we can do is going to be only more and more specific.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you send the surveys directly to the doctor client or to the managing person in their offices? Who does it go to?
Yeah, it depends on the information that they give us. So what email or phone number are they utilizing to contact, and what's their main point of contact with the dentist?
Are you happy with the return percentages that you're getting? I know some of the larger DSOs like Heartland and Aspen, sometimes they don't respond. Are you pretty happy with the percentages out of what you're sending that you're getting in return?
It's a great question. We're never happy with the percentage. We always want to see it increase. The biggest challenge that we'll have sometimes working with a lab is they'll see a 15% response rate, and they'll kind of go like, whoa, that's real low. And the issue there is that typically we start to think about email a lot in terms of email marketing. And we think, well, we need a bigger response rate than that, and that's what's going to move the needle. But really, if you think about the goal of this exercise, it's to reach people who are having a difficult time and identify them. those are the people who are going to take the time to fill out the survey. You've probably got plenty of clients who are just sort of like, nice day, everything's okay. But over time, at some point, they're going to have an issue and they're going to respond. So I am fine with any response rate that is helping the lab grow as long as they can do something with the data that they get back. The biggest issues that we have are when you have a lab that sends their survey out and they have like all promoters. So they kind of look at it and go, hey, we're doing great. But over time, you start to see the detractors come out of the woodwork because you want to make this a resource they can engage with at any time and then track that over time. So yeah, I mean, I think that there are other things that successful labs will do to increase the response rate. One thing I'll talk about, and this is, again, outside of what we do, I want to try and give some help to people who are just trying to figure this out on their own. Mm-hmm. One of the things that you can start doing when you collect any data from your customers is to be very transparent about what you're doing with that data and how that data is helping to grow your business and make it a better place for your customers. That's all they care about. So for instance, I will tell the owner of a lab, I'll say, look, before we start our program, it would be great, like somebody like Sean Keating, right? It would be great if you could send an email out to your customers and say, hey, we're engaging in an NPS program here. That means that we're going to be asking some really important questions of you, and we're going to do something about your feedback. We want to be a better lab. This is why we're asking these questions. Mm-hmm. So as a client or a customer, I look at that and I say, oh, that's cool that they actually care about what I say. Well, you know what? I'm gonna take them at their word and I'm gonna respond. So that kind of increases the response rate. Then you get the data back, and let's say that data says, one of the knocks in the comments that you'll see over and over again is, you don't pick up your phone, and I hate voicemail. I don't want to leave you voicemail, that kind of thing. There's mm-hmm. sort of a persistent issue with that. So then that CEO or the owner of the lab or whoever it is sends a note back out to their customers that says, hey, thank you so much for your responses on that survey we sent out. We listened. And now our new rule is that we pick up the phone after the first ring. So what you did there is you took all this great feedback, even if it was just a few comments, right? But you've mm-hmm. turned that into something that helps your customers see that you're listening, and that builds loyalty. That says, hey, this lab is different than the other guys that I use who never listen to me, and I get these dumb blanket emails from them that don't, refer to me. So that's one of the things that, and again, this doesn't have to be with our service or NPS. This can be with anything that you're doing. Be transparent and use data in a way that benefits your customers. Your customers don't mind giving you data or filling out surveys or telling you things about themselves as long as it helps improve their experience.
Yeah, it's only to their greater good if they fill it out.
That's right.
How often do you guys send out the surveys? Is it twice a year, once a year, every day? I mean...
Well, I have a lot to say about this, but Trevor, what are your thoughts?
The way I always like to put it is we like to keep a pulse rate on your dentist. So however you feel that we can do that without devaluing, I personally have seen, different cadences from once a month to once a quarter. I think we've had a couple people do biannually as well. But the danger of waiting too long is you start waiting for people. You start not responding to issues as they arise. So I like to see a cadence of about once a month. You definitely don't want to go once a day either, because then, that's when people start not responding to a survey. Sure. That you just get feedback of, hey, why are you annoying me with this? So we obviously want to avoid that. Once a month, once a quarter seems to be a pretty good cadence for still capturing the attention of your dentist, but without that annoying persistence that I'm sure people can get.
Yeah.
We've been looking at our clients now for about 2 months, trying to analyze our churn mm-hmm. and our rates of churn and why we get 20 clients in and 2 months later, half of them leave or a third of them leave, and you don't really know why. So it's funny how these podcasts, enlighten me, and I realize, there's different ways of doing business. And I'd be really interested in talking to you guys after this to see, because that's what we do. We sit there and we scratch our heads and we call them, and then they say everything's great. Right. But I think if you were to send an email, with just one question or two questions, it's such a small amount of time for them to take and be honest, and they're not on the phone with you, and they can just say, this is why. So
yep,
I can see it as a huge benefit to a laboratory, especially a large laboratory.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think the simplicity of it is so important, because simplicity creates repetition. If you can just do something within 30 seconds, you'll do it over and over again. If it takes, anything over 2-3 minutes, and no one's going to do that again. I mean, I think we've all seen those 30 question, 30 point surveys, and I don't think I've ever filled one of those out.
Yep.
Absolutely. And
same here.
What we look at with this is, you were talking about why are people churning? And one of the interesting things that we discovered as we started to talk to more labs, and also we have a partnership with LabStar software with Jeff over at LabStar, and he's a buddy of mine, and we talk about this a lot. And one of the things that you talk to a lot of labs about, they'll say, well, I'm looking at case volume. I'm looking at case volume as the way that I measure whether somebody's about to churn. And, I look at that and I think, okay, I get it. That's a metric that's measurable, and you can see that case volume decrease over time and all that good stuff. But it kind of reminds me of like being in high school and you're dating this girl or you're dating this guy, and they kind of step out on you. And it's like, okay, well, that really hurt, and I mean, like what
and why?
Yeah, and so once that's happened, like things aren't necessarily going to get a lot better. You're not going to go to couples therapy and figure it out. It tends to degrade from there. But my point is, when you look at case volume, it's not a leading indicator; it's a lagging indicator. So once that case volume starts to dip, that dentist is already out with another lab.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's why I was asking how often you do the surveys, because a lot of time's going to go by before you even find out why.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's exactly it. And once that starts to dip, once that dentist has, stepped out on you, it's very, very, very hard to bring them back. What you want to do in your lab is get at the root cause as quickly as possible, and that can only come through a different form of communication. Taking that relationship analogy a little bit further, a lot of times I'll talk to lab owners and I'll say, so why are you losing customers? And they'll say, well, it's price. And I'll say, so that's what the dentist is telling you. Oh yeah, it's price. It's all these guys doing cheap crowns in Asia or whatever it happens to be. And my take on that is, it's again like you're with your high school sweetheart and they break up with you and they say, well, it's me, not you.
I've heard that a few times.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's like the story of my life.
But it's really you. That's the problem.
Right. Exactly. Like right when you hear that, it's like bing, bing, bing. Okay, it's me. Right.
Yeah.
But it's what's so interesting is how lab owners have decided that this is the issue, and this might be controversial, but I just think it's an utter straw man argument. It's utterly not true, because I've also spent a lot of time with dentists and I've asked them the same question: why do you leave your lab? And what they tell me is it's communication. It's, again, nobody's picking up the phone. It's nobody's following instructions. It's all these things that. And keep in mind, dentists are not the most confrontation-prone people. So they're the most likely ones to say, hey, it's me, not you, I'm leaving, or it's price, or whatever it happens to be. So you've kind of got this dysfunction on both sides. And what we've tried to do with the surveys is, create a safe space where you can have this conversation and do this feedback and start to look at it. And what's really cool is, the last part of what we do is we take all of this data and we put it into an artificial intelligence algorithm. And what that does is it pulls out the key words and the key themes that are driving these scores. So when I look at what's driving your NPS down, or negative impact on NPS, like price is maybe the fifth thing down there. Okay.
Interesting.
That's it. The effect it's having is maybe 0.2% on your NPS. Now, if you look at things like turnaround,
following instructions, I think is the biggest
Yep.
one right now, right?
Following instructions.
Yeah.
No, I believe that. Yeah.
So
Because we don't read anything.
Right.
we do read, but I do hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, what we've done is we've really been able to create sort of this data, this industry data, which by the way, Elvis, I'm happy to share the industry data with you and you can maybe post it on your podcast notes.
No, yeah, absolutely.
And so it'll give you an idea of what dentists are really saying. And I think that, whether a lab wants to listen to that or believe in it, it certainly provides a clue as to where they can start digging to get better.
So what are the top 5 NPS scores? Thank you to John and Trevor for giving us some insight on client data collection. Join us next week as we learn more about the industry trends that they have learned and what we can do to improve on them.
After we had them on the podcast, and we run these podcasts many months after we do the interviews, myself and Knight Dental hired LabWorthy folks, and we've done surveys with our clients. We get immediate feedback. It enables us to go out to the clients and turn a bad into a win. And so we found that it's been a really positive experience for our company, and we'll probably continue to use them.
You give us credibility because you actually do the stuff that we're talking about.
Yeah, that's what I actually do. So when they come on and I find something that I think we can use in our company, I'm all in, man.
So you've already gotten results back? We only did this a couple of months ago. It was that quick.
Yeah, we had a couple conference calls with them, and then we hired them, and they did a survey to our clients, and then I would get emails daily on what the clients were saying, and it enabled me to actually give them a call, find out why they rated us. I think it was below 6, and enabled us to, save the client before they left. So it was actually a really good system.
Yeah, I would utilize the service, but I wouldn't get anything lower than a 10. So what's the point?
Of course not.
Wah, wah, wah.
You might not, but your lab might.
But if you don't want to wait for part 2 and you want to sign up with them, I mean, Barbara did, they have extended an amazing offer to listeners of the podcast. If you go to their website, labworthy.com, and put in the discount code VFTB, which stands for Voices from the Bench, you will get an additional 20% off their services.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
You can use that 20% to buy something for Christmas for Elvis.
Or you can buy a long sleeve t-shirt. But no worries if you can't write it down. Jump over to voicesfromthebench.com. Look at this episode's notes for a link to LabWorthy's website, their blog, and a nice sheet on the top insights for dental laboratories. Thanks, you guys, for providing an amazing discount to our listeners.
Thank you.
Also, for the fans of the podcast, Barb and I have started selling long-sleeve shirts for those colder winter months. Same great logo on the front, but we added a special message on the back that we both feel very strongly about. Head over to voicesfromthebench.com and click on the link to order yourself a long-sleeve shirt or as a gift.
I want one.
As always, all profits go to the Foundation for Dental Laboratory Technology. Get yours today.
I'm going to jump on there and order mine.
And the special message on the back is kick me. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I thought it was going to be up yours or you.
Yeah.
You.
It actually just says Barb, in parentheses, bleep. That's
Oh my God. Are you serious? I actually guessed it. Holy moly. Well,
No,
if you're going to be famous for something, be famous for it.
Oh, that's awesome. I appreciate it, everybody. Have a good week.
Thank you. Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye. Come here, baby. Come here, kitty kitty.